Chapter 46. Gabriel to war. The crumpled form of Vox's body didn't move. Gabe turned back, Bachman's working eye staring at him. See the fruits of your labors, the first of the weak ordinaries you've led to their death, the first to suffer and die because of you, but not the last. Gabe gripped his swords and ran forward. He had no plan this time, no anticipation or goal to get out of the way. He had one target. He would not miss. Bachman raised his hands, and 5 more shards shot from his fingertips. Gabe didn't flinch or dodge. He ran right into them. He focused only on Bachman. The shards sunk into his arm, upper thigh, and stomach. His vision shrunk, a black circle closing in. The only thing visible in the very center was Bachman. Gabe swung his sword. The distant sound of shattering glass reverberated in his ears. The sword hit its target. He felt the resistance as the sword went into Bachman's side and continued up through the first 2 ribs. He jerked the sword out of Bachman's torso with satisfaction and prepared to swing again. Bachman didn't react as Gabe stabbed his sword directly into Bachman's belly. Bachman's face was turned up, away from Gabe. It might as well have been a mosquito bite for all the reaction Bachman had to the sword in his gut. He stared out of one of the high windows in the building. The outline of the top floor of XC Energy was visible through the gap. There was still a light on the top floor, but it was dim, almost like a shadow had moved between them and the building. "No," Bachman whispered. "Impossible." The shadow grew darker, larger. Something was coming closer. Gabe dove to the floor and covered his head as a whirlwind of biting dust slammed into the building, entering through every hole and crack, swirling around them. The whirlwind centered around Bachman in a funnel. Bachman extended one hand as if trying to catch a few pieces. Bachman's features were unreadable, but his movements were slow, careful, like someone tending to a wounded cat. He looked down, noticing that his torso was nearly severed in half. He placed one hand on the wound as if trying to hold himself together, and leaned back, face to the whirlwind. "Pravus!" The word was a mournful scream. "After thousands of years, you will never return. My old friend, my strongest servant. Goodbye." He stepped forward, focusing on Gabe. His body jerked, unsteady, not as a man suffering from pain, but like a malfunctioning machine. One arm hung useless, the other wrapped around the wound in his side. "You haven't won. This is only the last breath of hope before consuming darkness." The black whirlwind grew in its intensity, pulling together, focusing around Bachman's body, swirling in, closer, tighter, until Gabe could only see a column of swirling black sand. The spinning column exploded. Gabe covered his head for protection as the sand burst outward in all directions and then settled, lifeless, to the ground. When Gabe looked up, Bachman was gone. Silence reigned. Gabe could just make out the sound of ragged breathing. Vox. Gabe tried to stand, but he could feel the darts in him, draining him of hope and energy. He resigned himself to crawling across the floor to reach Vox's side. Vox lay face down in a widening pool of blood. Gabe gently pulled on Vox's shoulder and turned him onto his back. He swallowed hard. Vox's chest cavity was crushed in, broken ribs visible through the skin. "Vox." Vox's eyes fluttered. "I did it." Vox's voice was nothing more than a garbled whisper. "All I ever wanted to do was to die fighting that man." "You did more than fight him. You beat him. You saved me." Gabe swallowed the lump in his throat. He tried to separate Vox's saturated shirt from his body. Vox reached up and grabbed Gabe's wrist. His fingers were cold, and there was no strength in the grip. Gabe stopped. Vox's head shook once, minutely. "Go," Vox said between short breaths. "Stay with me," whispered Gabe, grasping Vox's hand as if to force him. "Go, save your boy." Vox said the last 2 words in one drawn-out exhale. The corners of Vox's mouth turned up as he stared over Gabe's shoulder, his eyes glazed over. Gabe gritted his teeth and let go of Vox's hand. He brushed Vox's eyelids down, hand hovering over his face. "Farewell, brother. May the angels reward you for your courage and guide you to eternal rest. He didn't want to move. He had nothing left. No energy, no hope. He could close his eyes and let everything slip away. Vox's last words echoed through his mind. Vox's boys were gone, but there was another boy, a boy he would happily call his son, Treadon, and Abigail, sweet, patient Abigail. If he slipped away, let the darkness take him, they would be left to face the consequences alone. As much as he wished for death, he couldn't leave them. Not yet. Not like this. He reached into Vox's trench coat and found the pliers. He locked them onto the sliver in his arm and yanked. Gabe was grateful he was already on the ground, as the dizziness from the pain nearly knocked him unconscious. He waited for his head to clear, and then yanked the second one from his leg. Each time, he said their names. Abigail. Treadon. He lifted his shirt to find the shard that had penetrated his stomach. Only a small black dot revealed its location. There was no time. He could feel the blackness sucking his energy into the last shard. The little reasoning left in Gabe's weakening mind was that Treadon must not have done as he was told, must have gone into the building and faced an enemy without him. He searched through Vox's coat again. He found the nail gun, a hammer, nail strips, some miniature saw blades, and a meat cleaver, a coat full of weapons. A man fighting for revenge with every resource he could find. Vox was a hero in a way Gabe had never been. Finally, Gabe found a utility knife and slid the blade out. He took a deep breath and sliced across the spot where the black shard had disappeared. He sucked in air through his teeth as he pushed the pliers in, felt the resistance, and positioned the pliers around the end of the shard. The strength to pull it out was gone. He had one thing left to live for. As he pulled, squeezing the pliers, he yelled her name. Adura, his angel. His lost descendant, Caden Bachman, said she was alive, and his guardian instinct kicked in. The pliers came out dripping with blood, pinching the last black shard of hematite. He tossed the pliers to the side. The relief was immense, but not complete. The slice on his belly was healing, but slowly. There was more. Something else was wrong, but at least he could stand and stumble out of the building toward the light.